Hey everybody, I wanted to share with you guys how to save the most money on fuel taxes and how to get the best price on fuel. This is one of the first things I took a lot of time on researching when we first got into expediting. We were driving for an owner who paid us the 60% and allowed, but we had to buy fuel, so it was something I really wanted to learn in order to make the most amount of profit out of that 60% and the fuel surcharge. Now, they make it extremely confusing to learn. It took me lots of trial and error to really figure it out. But once you learn it, it's actually a really easy concept to understand. So many people think that if you buying fuel in a high fuel tax state, you're paying more for fuel, but what they don't realize is when it comes down to your IFTA, if you buy fuel in states with low fuel tax a lot, you're going to end up owing more money at the end of the quarter. Plus, you probably wasted a bunch of money on paying for fuel that you could have got cheaper prices. Greg Huggins from Expeditors Online, he does a blog over there all the time, and I highly recommend you guys go check his blog section out. I'll have it linked down in the description. He created an app to help simplify figuring out the easiest way to buy fuel. I do a lot of reading on the internet. I'm always reading people talk about fuel taxes and how they had to pay so much here and there, and I've even heard some of the most experienced expediters explain the wrong way to buy fuel to other newer drivers, and it's just that confusing sometimes if you don't understand it. California just had a really huge hike not too long ago on their fuel tax. It's upwards of 57 cents per gallon that you buy goes towards fuel tax, which is a really huge number. Now, I heard somebody say, tell a new driver one time that that's a good thing because then that's more money towards their IFTA, and that's the wrong way to look at it. Sure, you get more money towards your IFTA, but how much did you pay per gallon? That is the bottom line. How much are you paying for that gallon of fuel? If you buy 1 gallon of fuel, how much did that 1 gallon of fuel cost you? And this is what Greg Huggins has tried to help people figure out with his app, and what I'm going to try to help explain a little bit too. And it's really simple to understand when you explain it this way. Now, for his app, there is not an app for the iPhone per se. You don't go to the App Store and download an app. He has a website for Apple users. There's two ways you can do it. You can bookmark the website in your bookmarks, or you can add the website as a thumbnail to your homepage screen, and I'll show you how I did that. We're going to take an example here, California and Arizona. People say they buy fuel in Arizona before they go into California, so they have enough to get in and get back out to buy fuel again in Arizona, which, if the numbers are right, that's a good thing to do. And then I've heard people say that they buy fuel in California because it has a high fuel tax and they want that high fuel tax to go towards their IFTA. Again, that's the wrong way to be thinking about it. So we're going to do a screen record here. Let me get this going. We normally fill up at TA and Petros. It's just where we usually get the hugest discounts from. But not always, so we'll get into that in a little bit. But what I've done is I pulled up TA in Barstow, California. That's right there off the 40, right when you're getting into California. It's a place that I usually always fueled a lot because before their big fuel tax hike, fuel was actually cheaper there per the gallon. So looking here at their website right here, price per gallon is $4.09 a gallon. Well, $4.10 a gallon. So what I've also done is I pulled up TA Kingman. That's the last TA in Arizona before you get into California, and their price is $3.55.9 a gallon. So Huge difference there in the price per gallon. But what a lot of people don't understand is you need to subtract the state's fuel tax from that price to figure out how much you were paying per gallon. So if we go to California's, 409 per gallon, 0.099 minus 0.57. Fuel in California, if you buy fuel in California, it's 3.529 or $3.53 a gallon. Now let's do Arizona's. 355.9. Their fuel tax is 26 cents. So 355.9 minus 0.26 is 329.9 a gallon. So about 25 cents difference. Whereas if you're looking at the pump price, 410 versus 460, that's a 50 cents difference. So huge difference, but yes, still worth it to buy fuel in Arizona before going into California because of that fuel tax. The California having such a high fuel tax, you are going to get fuel in Arizona for 3.29 a gallon. Now, this is minus any of your company's discounts, and I'll go into that, how you figure out what your company discounts are. One thing I like to do, and I highly recommend downloading this app also, is the Fleet Advance mobile app. If you use Comdata to fuel, you got to have this app on your phone. On their main page, you go to Find Fuel. It's usually going to pull up your location. It's a really slow app. It's not the greatest, but it does work. All right, so it pulled up that I'm in New Mexico right now because we're still here on vacation. I'm going to zoom out, and you can see this thing is really, really slow. I'm going to scroll over to Kingman, Arizona, which is where I would buy fuel at. And this is going to give you the price that you get with your company discount. So at TA Kingman, Arizona, fuel for us would be $3.09 a gallon. And if you notice, that $3.09 a gallon is in the green. The green is always going to be the cheapest in that area. So if I take that $3.09 a gallon, 3.09 minus 0.26, means I'm getting fuel in Arizona for $2.83 a gallon. Now let's check California's real quick. We'll scroll over to Barstow. All right, Barstow, California. So at the TA Barstow, there would be the cheapest for us because we get the biggest discounts there. Is $3.61 a gallon. So we'll take that 3.61 minus 0.57 is $3.04 a gallon. So even with the company discount, it's cheaper for me to fuel in Arizona before going into California. Now this is the number one best way to pay the least amount for fuel. That is our number one concern. I do not worry about how much I am going to have to pay or how much I'm going to get back at the end of each quarter for IFTA or the fuel taxes. I don't worry about that. Our number one concern of people who buy fuel, and probably our number two biggest expense in trucking, is getting that gallon for the cheapest way possible. How do we pay the very least for that gallon? And shopping it by state is how you're going to do that. Whatever your company discount price is, if you don't get a discount, look at the pump prices, subtract the fuel tax from it, and that's how much you're paying per gallon. So as you've seen in California, even minus the fuel tax, minus our discounts, we're still paying $3.09 a gallon, versus in Arizona, it would have been about 20 cents cheaper. So absolutely, we would fuel up in Arizona before going into California. Now, there are certain states where it works backwards. Pennsylvania. If you look at Pennsylvania, going from Ohio to Pennsylvania, Pennsylvania has a really, really high fuel tax. It's 74 cents a gallon goes towards fuel tax. Whereas in Ohio, it's only 28 cents a gallon. So let's go to TA Petros and just look up prices for fuel in Pennsylvania. And we'll just look at the pump price, not the company discount price. Carlisle, Scranton. Where's one close to the border? All right, so TA Bloomsburg in PA, their fuel is $3.79 a gallon. Minus that 74 cents is $3.05 a gallon. Now let's go look at Ohio. And we'll look at, I think Youngstown is the last TA over there that we can fuel up at. TA Youngstown is $3.39 a gallon. Now their fuel tax was again 28 cents. Is $3.11 a gallon. So in Ohio, if I fuel up in Youngstown, Ohio, per pump price, not counting my company discount, I am paying $3.11 a gallon. Whereas if I wait to get into Pennsylvania and go to that other location in Pennsylvania, sure, I'm paying a higher fuel tax, but after you subtract that, I'm paying $3.04 a gallon for fuel. So that's another instance where, sure, a higher fuel tax isn't always bad. It's not always going to hurt you to buy fuel in a state that has a high fuel tax, but sometimes it does. You have to take that fuel tax number, subtract it from the pump price or your company's pump price, whatever. Now let's take a look at Greg Huggins app. This thing is awesome. I absolutely love this app. I have it not only bookmarked, but I have it saved to my home page also. There it is, fuel tax maps. Now this is the home page, fuel tax maps. You got charts, maps, about fuel tax, and trucking blogs. You can click this link to go look at his blogs that he writes. He writes some really good stuff. I just love the way he puts things in perspective sometimes. And he also has a link here for FMCSA regulations. One of the links that I use always is the maps up in the top right hand corner, so I'll go ahead and click that. And then each quarter he goes in and he checks to see if a state's fuel tax changed for that quarter, or if it's going up or it's going down. And he puts it on a little map that really simplifies it for everybody. So the very top one here is 2018 second quarter color map. So I'm going to click on that. Then it gives you a map here that you can zoom in on. And each state, it has their fuel tax in there. So you can see California is 57, Arizona 26, Pennsylvania is 74, Ohio 28 cents. So, and he goes in and changes this each quarter as the fuel taxes change. So, I mean, mass props to Greg's for taking the time to do this. Huge resource for you guys to be using, and I highly recommend downloading this app if you buy fuel. You know, it makes it a real quick way to look at the fuel taxes if you want. You can also go to charts and go to the IFTA's website. He has linked in there. And then here's the list of each state with their fuel taxes. This gives gasoline, propane, compressed natural gas, liquid natural gas, you know, all stuff that really doesn't pertain to us. So it really clutters up your screen when you're trying to, you know, be quick and look at it. But you can always go and check that out if you need to. And this about fuel taxes. He prints out and types out basically what I've just discussed. Buying fuel in a state that has a high fuel tax isn't always bad. You want to subtract that number to figure out what you're paying for that gallon. That's all we care about. What are we paying for that gallon of fuel? Who cares? All the taxes, we're going to pay it either way. Whether we pay it at the end of the quarter or if we pay it at the pump. We're going to owe that tax for every state we drive through. So Our goal is to get it for the cheapest price possible for the gallon that we put in our truck that we're going to burn. Another way to pay less on fuel tax is to drive slower too. The better your truck gets per gallon, better miles per gallon your truck gets, the lower you pay in taxes. That's how fuel taxes is figured out. They take how many miles you drove through that state, how many miles per gallon your truck gets, and then they subtract that, and then that's how much you owe that state. So if you get better fuel mileage, you're going to pay a less fuel tax. It's not a big number, maybe an extra 40, 30, $80 per quarter, but it adds up. That money, when you're in business, you got to pinch those pennies. So let me also show you guys how I bookmark this page to my home screen. And this is for Apple users. If you're an Android user, you can go to the Google Play Store and download this app. It's called Fuel Tax Maps. But for Apple users, down here at the bottom, in the very center, you got a square with an arrow pointing up. You click that. You can add to favorites, add to bookmarks, add to home screen. So you click that. You can rename it if you want. You can click add. Then if you look at the bottom here, second column over, fuel tax maps. I've also got it up here over on the third column up all the way to the right, but I'll delete one of them since I've already got it on there. But then you can just click on that bookmark there that you have on your home screen, and it pulls it up the same way. And I understand he couldn't make an app for the Apple. Apple is completely complicated to be able to get an app in the App Store, whereas Google Play, pretty much anybody can just put an app up. I really give this guy props, though, for taking the time to make this app. This is such an invaluable tool that every truck driver should have in their phone and should be shopping fuel like this every time. After a while, you get used to it. You start learning the state's fuel taxes. You'll get accustomed where you usually get the cheapest fuel. For instance, the scenarios I gave you, filling up in Kingman or Barstow. I just gave that to you. So now all you have to do is just fill up in Kingman every time you go. Get into California, make your drop, get your pickup. If by chance you go from the south to the north to out and you don't have enough fuel to get out of California, sure, you're going to have to buy it there. That's just how it goes sometimes. But if you buy fuel in Kingman, go to California, drop off in LA, that fuel up in Kingman should give you enough to get back to Kingman and get cheaper fuel there and not have to fuel up in California. But always check it, because before California came out with this fuel tax hike, it was cheaper to buy fuel in California. You got to do the math. And after you've been doing it for a good 6 months, you'll learn it. You'll know, okay, well, I'm going to fuel up in Kingman before I go into Arizona. Let me go look at Greg Huggins' app real quick, make sure fuel taxes haven't changed at all. Maybe go look at TA's website or the ComData website and double check, make sure you're going to get the cheapest fuel there. But you'll start to get accustomed to it. So do the hard work in the beginning and learn it, and it will get easier after you've been doing it for a while. So real quick, I forgot to mention, I did do a video. I think this was one of our very first informational videos about fuel taxes. I'll link down in the description as well if you want to check that one out. A few things have changed since I did that video. Indiana is a state that has gone up on their fuel tax since I did that video. Indiana was a state that I would never fuel in. They have gone up on their fuel tax, so it kind of makes Indiana one to look out for. Kentucky and Virginia, they have a surcharge that does not get applied to your IFTA account, basically. So those are two states that I never fuel in, because that's just money on extra taxes that I'm paying unless I absolutely have to. There's times we pass through Virginia and we just had to fuel there. There was it was still the cheapest option. And Oregon, I never fuel in Oregon. Oregon does not participate in the IFTA, but you still pay a tax for it. I'm not too sure 100% on Oregon. If you look at Greg Huggins' map, it says 0, but they do not participate in the IFTA. So even if you buy fuel in Oregon, it does not get applied to your IFTA. That's one I'm still researching myself and having to learn on. Maybe Greg Huggins can do a blog about Oregon and buying fuel there and what it means. So that'd be pretty cool. I hope you guys liked the video. I hope I didn't ramble on too much and actually confuse it. It's actually a really simple process. Subtract the fuel tax from what you're supposed to be paying for the gallon. Who's ever's cheaper after subtracting it, buy fuel there. That's what you're paying for the gallon. So big shout out to Greg Huggins. I'm going to leave a link for the website down in the description. I think you can, for the Google Play, you can download the link from there. Or you could just bookmark it if you don't like downloading apps. I don't like bogging down my phone with a bunch of things on my screen. Sometimes if I don't have to download it, I won't. But I'll have a link down in the description and also a link for his blog section. You can either go to his website and get to his blogs that way, or click the link that I have directly to his blog. So hope you guys liked the video. Till our next video, peace, love, and expediting.